What's up, everyone? Welcome to Back to the Future, the podcast that takes a trip down Philly sports memory lane. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to episode 53. We have a very, very special show today. We have a very special guest who had the opportunity to speak to earlier this week. We sat down and talked for about 45 minutes. That is Ken Avallon, the president and co-founder of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. I've been looking forward to working with him all summer, between just trying to coordinate things and him getting ready for the 2023 induction class. It was nice of him to take some time out of his schedule to sit down with us and talk. So I don't want to take a lot of time prepping this. I want to get right into the interview because we had a blast and it was a good time. But if you are new and this is your first time here, welcome. This is Back to the Future. And typically what we do here is take a deeper look, an in-depth look at either like a specific event, player, era of Philly sports. Last week, for instance, we did our football special. So we took a look at the current state of college football in Philly and what that meant for Temple. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I'm a Temple guy through and through. We took a look at the difference in fantasy football versus sports gambling and whether or not the legalization of sports gambling has had an impact on fantasy football, as well as previewed the Eagles season. So be sure to check that out and any of the other archives we have there. I do have a lot of good, fun things on the horizon, and the best way to stay in the loop on that is to like and subscribe. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. I'm really excited about some of the things I have lined up. Also, if you're new, I also have a daily This Day in Philly Sports History podcast, which ties in very nicely with some of the things I talked about with Ken earlier this week. That's a 8 to 15 minute hit where we talk about what happened this day in Philly sports history, as well as the current state of the Philly teams. And I always like to do something fun. For instance, in February, we did a Black History Spotlight. We did a Women's History Month Spotlight. Over the summer, when we were in the dog days, I did a Philly Sports Lovable Loser tournament where we took a look at our runner-up in championships and best playoff teams, and we did a March Madness style bracket for that. The 2001 Sixers came out on top of that. Just a lot of fun things. Currently this month we're doing who wore it best, and we're taking a look at specific numbers and looking at all the guys for the different teams and basically who wore it best, giving you guys a chance to vote on that. Again, available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. But I'm really, really excited I was very excited, I should say, to sit down with Ken and really just talk about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. They have a big 20th induction class coming up in November. So in honor of that, I wanted to speak with him and just kind of get the word out there. And as you'll see from the interview, it's a very grassroots movement. It's a nonprofit, obviously, and just through the labor and love of Philly sports is really what has made the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame what it is. I love their mission. I love what they stand for. And hopefully this is something that is going to be able to take them to the next level. But without further ado, let's take it to Ken Avallon, the president and co-founder of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. The Clashing Conferences podcast is a football conference-specific podcast that brings together the everyday passion of real fans and their not-so-friendly friends for the purpose of real-life football entertainment. Aggressive but friendly competitiveness is the name of the game as this group of NFC East fans jabs and banters each other trying to prove their pointless points. With an internal competition within for weekly and end-of-the-season bragging rights, watch as this group will still boast and brag even when their teams fail to bring home the W. New episodes drop on Thursday, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right. We are here with Ken Avallon, the president of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. How are you, Ken?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. And this is the 20th year of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Can you talk a little bit about the history and kind of the story about how you guys got here?
Sure. Yeah. So, and just so we clarify, it's a 20th class, 20th anniversary class. But before that, I mean, actually, the genesis of the whole thing started in May of 2002. Back when people used to read the newspaper, Frank Fitzpatrick for the Inquirer, he used to write a weekly little blurb called Morning Bites. I don't know if you remember that or not. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
it was kind of some fun, irreverent type stuff, comments he would make and historical comments and whatnot. And I believe it was May of '02 when I saw it. I said, wouldn't it be great if there was a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame? And I read it and I said, there's got to be, with the Philadelphia sports history going back literally to the late 1800s. I said, there's got to be a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So I started doing a bunch of research. And, there's a Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame with local chapters, Philadelphia Boxing Hall of Fame, Big Five Hall of Fame, Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, but no Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So I, got together with a couple of family members, a couple of friends, and I said, what do you guys think about creating a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame? They said, hey, there has to be one, right? And I said, I haven't been able to find one. And they said, sure, let's give it a shot. So we sat down, got together, kind of drew up a formal, constitution, bylaws of the whole bit. And what we did was during kind of my research, I found there was I guess it shouldn't be surprising number, but a number of regional halls of fame throughout the country. Texas has their own, Alabama, Buffalo has their own, state of Virginia. So what I did was I kind of reached out to a lot of those organizations and said, hey, we're trying to get started. What worked well for you guys? What didn't work well for you guys? And they were really, really big help. So it took us, I'd say it was about a year or so of just really a lot of behind the scenes work. Reached out to a lot of the local sports writers, the ADs, some employees at the different sports teams, looking for input, that kind of thing. And then we kind of went live in June of '03 with our first article. And again, Frank Fitzpatrick wrote it, and it said, a call for a hall, and us guys putting a Hall of Fame together. And it was cool. I mean, Glenn McNeil had us, he read about it on 610. Mm-hmm. I was actually down the shore at the time, so I called in. And that kind of kicked things off from there.
That's awesome. And I have to say, as I was doing my research, I was shocked that it's only been that short of time frame, considering, like you said, the rich history going back to the 1880s. So when you guys were first starting off and getting the ball rolling, was it hard? It seems like almost immediately, because of Frank, because of Glenn, that you guys almost had some instant credibility. So was it hard to get some buy-in from either the local media, the local players? How did that go down?
No, like I said, the media they were great. I mean, as I said, I reached out to, Ray Didinger, Stan Hockman at the time, folks like that. And again, most people came back and said, are you sure there is one? That was kind of again, going back. And to your point, the Phillies started in 1883. So that's how far back. No, so they were really, really, really helpful. As I said, I called in to the Glenn's show. I was actually down the shore. I said, hi, this is Ken Avallon. I'm the guy in the article. He goes, hi, this is Ken from Avallon. He thought I was calling from Avallon, New Jersey. I said, no, this is Ken Avallon. And he said, hang on. And I did. And he had his producer give me all of his information to kind of get started. And then so what we did was we actually reached out to them and said, you got to put together an initial ballot. We reached out and we got their input. We reached out to the boxing organization, Philadelphia Athletics Historical Society. If you're familiar with them, they were dedicated to the A's. Reached out to them. They were a great help. So we got input from a lot of different areas to try to put together our initial ballot. And it was hard. I mean, I think I'd have to pull the ballot up. I think we probably had 45 names on there. Everyone who's been inducted since then. But as going back over 100 years, it's really hard to kind of narrow that down. But to answer your question, we did get a lot of support from the media, from the organizations, from the local schools, and local sports historians and sports writers.
That's awesome. I bet they probably were thinking the same thing. Isn't this already a thing?
Well, yeah, exactly.
So tell us about, I guess, the physical, like where you guys are now before we start getting into some of the inductees and everything. Like, is there a physical building for like the Baseball Hall of Fame has a museum, the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Like, can people come and see things?
Sure. And that's actually a very good segue there. So at our first induction, so the first thing people ask us, in people's mind, they hear Hall of Fame, they're thinking sports museum. And we were at the time, we were kind of victims of our own success. It was really successful. The first 3 years of the induction, I mean, literally at our first induction, we had Chuck Bednarik, Steve Van Buren, Joe Frazier was there, Paul Harrison was there. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Connie Mack's daughter was there, Jimmy
Oh
Fox's
wow.
daughter. Yeah, so it was neat. Um, and yeah, we were victims of our success a little bit, because I mean, conceptually, a Hall of Fame is almost just an idea, right? It's really an idea.
Mhm.
And you look at Cooperstown. If you've been to Cooperstown, you
I
go in
have.
there and there's the Hall of Fame is this part of it, and then it's a giant baseball museum. So the actual baseball. So to answer your question, we do have a physical location. It took us a while. It's Spike's Trophies. They've been around forever. They're over on Grand Avenue, and they're actually donating space to us. They've been doing it, I guess, it's probably about 6 or 7 years now, donating space in their facility. And we have basically sports museum exhibits there. We're using that as kind of a almost like an incubator for an idea for a
Mhm.
full-fledged sports museum. And the truth is, a museum is not a moneymaker. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to come up with a sustainable business plan. And that's quite frank, that's the struggle we've had. We've had support, and we haven't really deliberately reached out to any potential sponsors, any big donors, because you only get that ask once. And so
Right.
right now we're self-funded. We're all volunteers and we're self-funded. But yeah, Spice Trophies. We have a preview gallery there. We rotate exhibits in and out. Right now, we've got a dedication to the four Eagles championship teams. It's very cool. We're in the process of creating two new exhibits, one dedicated to Dick Vermeil, one to Larry Boa. We have an exhibit for the Philadelphia A's. We have the Palestra there. And yeah, we rotate them out every 6 to 8 months, depending on the feedback we get from the visitors.
Awesome. Great. And like for people, do they need to schedule something or can they just show up to see that?
It's yeah, they can go to Spikes and Spikes will let them in. But we prefer to be there to kind of give them a guide. So we're there on weekends, on Saturdays. We're there occasionally during the week so people can reach out and we can set up time for it. We have occasional open houses, which is nice to get people to come in. And it's great for us. I mean, we have a pretty substantial collection of artifacts, sports artifacts. So by rotating the exhibits, we're able to kind of keep it fresh with showing different things. But yeah, it's open to the public. As I said, they can reach out to the organization and we can kind of set them up for a visit.
Okay, great. And what I'll do is I'll leave for everybody who's wondering, I'll leave the contact information in the description when you guys are either watching or listening to this.
That's great.
So sticking with the memorabilia, because ironically enough, I got in contact with you originally because I was looking to do some things with the Philadelphia A's,
Right.
and the A's Historical Society said that they had donated everything to you guys. Um, how do you guys get, I guess, your memorabilia that you have? Is it something where you guys actively look for it, or because of just sort of the clout and the people that kind of got behind you guys, do they just say, hey, guys might want this, or how does that work?
Yes to a lot of that. So like this year, obviously with our inductees going in, we'll search for artifacts related to to Chooch, Carlos Ruiz, or Jay Wright, or going back to some of the older folks. We actually actively go out and do that. Um, we we have, to your point about people that are interested in us. Back when Fran Dunphy was still the coach at the Palestra, he reached out and said, "Hey, we're getting rid of some stuff. It's in the basement of the Palestra. I think you guys might want to take a look at it." So we go down and of course, we'll take it. It turns out we have the two original glass backboards from the Palestra, the very first two that were ever used at the Palestra. We have them. We've got the stanchions. We've got turnstiles. Um, when the vet was going down, the Phillies pulled aside a bunch of stuff for us. We have, I don't remember from the vet, but in the outfield wall, the bullpen was behind the outfield wall.
Mhm.
And they would sit out there on these giant benches where they could, so that the guys in the bullpen could look over the outfield wall and watch
Yes,
the
I do
game.
remember.
We have both of those bullpen benches. We have original sections of the outfield wall. We have ticket windows. So yeah, organizations that they were all donations. When the Spectrum was closing, we've got a piece of dasher board from the Spectrum. We've got a bunch of seats from the Spectrum. Those types of things. If you remember a couple of years ago when St. Joe's Fieldhouse, They
Yep.
redid Mike Hagan, it's now Hagan Arena. Again, same thing. Don DeJulie, he was AD at the time. He said, "Hey, we got a bunch of stuff for us. We have some cool signs. We have a scoreboard from the old St. Joe's Fieldhouse." Um, and two of the coolest things we have are back in '93. If you remember, the Phillies were in the World Series. They had a big giant Phillies cap on Billy Penn.
Yes, we've talked about that on here.
Okay, so Keith Baldwin, who at Spikes through he knows everybody, came across that, and he said, "Sure, we'll take it." So we have that hat at our preview gallery at Spikes, hanging from the ceiling.
That's incredible. Yeah, I definitely remember that, because then I think a couple years later they put the Flyers jersey on him too,
Right,
and
right.
I think they quit after that. They were like, "All right, it's bad luck."
Well, it was it. You're right, because in '08, when the Phillies were in the World Series, they were deciding whether they wanted to do that or not. And somebody says, "Well, Joe Carter, '93 Phillies, maybe not a good idea." So they ended up not putting putting it on.
Smart
And
decision.
yeah, and then one of the coolest things, again, from the Specs, was we had a, as I said, great relationship with Ed Snyder, Mike Rich, and those guys. But they said, "Hey, we've got these old backboards," and it turns out we've got the backboards and standards for the Leitner game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we've got them as well. Both of them, where he's throwing the inbounds pass, he's under the backboard, he throws it,
Mhm.
and then Leitner boom boom turns and shoots. So we actually have both of them. They're shrink wrapped, but so that's kind of an idea of where we get most of our stuff. And some stuff, inductees just donate it. So here, Ray
Mhm.
Didger called me up. He said, "Hey, you guys want this?" It's his press pass and his game notes for the Super Bowl when they won.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
awesome. He's
you
one of
know,
my
you know,
favorites too.
you know how he writes everything down on his yellow legal
Mhm.
pads. We have his legal pad and his press pass from the Super Bowl. So that kind of stuff. So to your point, people they understand us, they understand the brand. As I said, we're nonprofit, and they feel real good about reaching out for things like that.
No, that's awesome. And I think there's just so much that probably people, like you said, like Dunphy, just saying, "Hey, come into the basement," and who knows what's down there. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's awesome.
Well,
Um,
and you're right. Just what we've also done, and it's kind of worked out pretty well, is we've had some families. "Hey, my father died, and he had a bunch of really cool stuff. We don't know what to do with it. You guys want it?" So we've had a number of those donations as well, which is kind of neat. And then what we'll do, we'll call that the Bertucci collection, or the Cairns collection, wherever it is, dedicated to that individual whose collection it
mhm.
was. So it's kind of a little bit of a tribute to their father or uncle, whoever it was.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, all I have is my little piece of the vet behind me here, but just a little concrete piece that we went down when they
Oh yeah, nice,
when
nice.
when they imploded it and were cleaning it up, and they were like,
Yep.
the fence were up, so we kind of reached in the fence, and security
Good for
guards
you.
were given. But that's a whole statutes of limitations is up now, I think, for
Oh yeah,
that.
you're good. Yeah, it's been 10 years, I think, right? So I think you're good.
No, 20 years. The link's been open
I'm sorry,
20
20.
years
Oh yeah,
now.
20. You're right. Not near 20 years. Yeah, you're right. Yes, I think you're safe.
All right. So you mentioned some things about the nominees for this year. Before I go into some of the specifics on them, what is the kind of the criteria? I know you mentioned speaking for that inaugural class, talking to some of the sports writers, but
Sure.
like, is there specifics? I know obviously they have to have a tie to Philadelphia, but is
Yep.
there something else that goes into it?
Sure. So basically, they either need to be, from the area. We call it a native son, native daughter, and it's not just Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware, Delaware County, whatever, but from the area, or they've basically played the majority of or not even the majority, but a notable amount of their career here in Philadelphia. Like I say Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, Dr. J. Obviously not locals, but the peak of their career and what they're known for is Philadelphia. Um, some native sons, Mike Piazza, Reggie Jackson, people like that, Herb Adderley, Roy Campanella. A lot of people may not realize he's from Philadelphia.
Mhm.
Folks like that, they're from the area, and they had their success. They had their success elsewhere. So it's really those two, and occasionally get some people that did both, like Will Chamberlain, local, who played here. Tom Gola, Paul Ayers, and they were local and they played here. But it's that type of. It's really they're the two criteria, either from the area or a significant portion of their career here in Philadelphia.
All right. And then
And
do
and,
you
and we haven't defined a real geographic area, deliberately not. What we'll do, we'll reach out to individuals to see, do they feel like they're from Philly? And it's interesting. Some do and some don't. And Franco Harris, before he passed away, because he was born in Mount Holly. I know a lot of people don't realize it. He was born over in New Jersey, in South
Mhm.
Jersey. Franco Harris was. And we reached out to him, and he said he didn't really have an affinity for Philadelphia. He kind of, liked where he was because it was Fort Dick, so he was kind of, his father was there, and Mount Laurel. He didn't feel like he was, you know, from Philly. He did, so we said, okay, that's fine. So we didn't, and we respected. Didn't want to put pressure on and say we're going to put you in the ballot anyway.
Right.
And other people that, I'm born and raised in Philly. And that's my spot. So we kind of reach out to individuals and try to gauge that as well if we can. We can't always do it. We try to.
Mhm. So then, do you guys choose the inductees, or can people turn them in? Like, how like in pro sports, it's like 5 years after you retire, you're eligible. Is there any criteria that way, or?
Yeah, we do. We have a 5 year eligibility for players or posthumous. Unfortunately, Kobe went in, the year that he passed. I mean, but yeah, we have 5 years for players. For coaches, we kind of waive that because they're later in their lives, and we like to induct them when they're live if we can. So for coaches, we kind of we kind of waive that. But then the coaches, their career is going to be 20, 30, 40 years. So we don't have that 5 years since they retired. And the same thing with our we can touch on this a little bit, but with we call it Legacy of Excellence, which is kind of our media wing, like the non actual performers, and we don't have a 5 year um, limit for them as well. Um, but yeah, so like most halls of fame, there's we do have a formal process on our website. Anybody can pretty much submit anybody as a nominee, and then it comes to, and we'll vet them out. Yeah, and you get, and sometimes it's unfortunate, you get somebody, hey, well, my dad played 3 years with the Phillies back in the 1930s. He's a legend in the family. Uncle Joe's, an athletic legend in the
Mhm.
family, but he just doesn't qualify. And we'll get them, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, and then we kind of have this big list of nominees, and it's an ongoing list. I mean, we still have, I'd say, probably well over 100 potential nominees right now, excluding people that are still playing. You've got your guys on the Eagles that are probably going to go in, guys that just recently retired that don't qualify yet. So we've got that, and then so what will happen? We will create a ballot. You see the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot comes out every year, or the NFL ballot comes out every year, and that generally comes to 40 to 45 names on the ballot.
Okay.
And what we do, we draw a line chronologically. So we call it our nominees and our heritage nominees. Because for the first couple of years, what we found out was there was a lot of recency bias. People were voting for the people they knew, and maybe not voting for people who are more qualified. So what we do, the ballot's basically broken up now, and so you'll have, and that line is roughly 50 years. So people who've performed, within the past 50 years, they're up top of the ballot. The lower 50 or the bottom, and then we have a formal ballot committee, of that vote, and it's about 120, 130. Again, sports writers, sports
Mhm.
historians, all of our existing inductees, they get a ballot. Um, so that those ballots, they come back, and we have a threshold of 70%. If somebody appears on 70% of the ballots, they're automatically inducted. And then from that, we have a selection committee, and there we sit down, kind of like they do in pro football. I don't know if they have a committee. They get together and somebody puts out a name. I'm presenting John Elway, or Ray Dinger presented Tommy McDonald, and they make their case for that. So we kind of have that selection committee, and that's how we fill out the rest of the inductee class.
Okay, great. And you actually covered one of the other questions I was going to ask about some of and I get you guys call them the legacy folks, but just how does that work, especially if somebody's been played in the 20s, and at this point, if you're not really up on your Philly sports history, you might not be
Right.
aware of them.
It's a good point. So what we do on the ballot, we it's that you submit 15. You can pick 15, and what we do is we mandate 5 from each of the 2 categories, and then
Okay.
the other 5 you can pick from wherever you want. So yeah, there's 5 from the heritage group, 5 from the, call them contemporary, and then people can pick where they. And what we also do is we send out well, actually, I keep saying send. Last year, we finally went all digital. Everything was electronic because we found, I don't know if it's because of the whole COVID thing or when it happened. We're end up losing a lot of ballots were getting lost, either not delivered or delivered late in the mail, or they were sent to us and we didn't get them. So we ended up going all digital. But regardless, what we'll do, we put together we did a lot of research, put together a kind of a bullet point bio for each one of the nominees. To your point, somebody may not be familiar with one of the Philadelphia Athletics pitcher from the 1920s. So we put together a highlight, kind of a career highlight for them of everybody on the ballot. So it gives them, an idea of who may qualify, who they think may, they may want to vote for if not real familiar with them.
Awesome. And that's a perfect segue into this because I actually have the bullet point
Oh,
list
cool.
that you
Oh,
sent
good.
me.
Oh, neat.
And I mean, to me, it's crazy that like looking at the people that have already been inducted and the fact that you say there's a waiting list of over 100 at this point, and just some of the names that are on here. And these are just the big name people, like you said, that everybody knows, but like a Bernard Hopkins, Bill Giles. I mean, I know Bill Connect just from running down on Kelly Drive and things
Oh,
like
okay. Oh,
that.
yeah, the rower. Yeah.
But Chooch, Carl Lewis's sister Carol, Irving Fryer, Jay Wright, as you mentioned, Jeremiah Trotter,
Yep.
Joe Watson, one of the original Flyers. I mean,
Sure.
and I think everybody too. The one name that I kind of chuckled at was Willie Jones because everybody they were talking about Puddinhead when
Right.
Bryson Stott was going on his hit streak early in the season. And then just to look at some of the names then that are not the name brand, like an Al Holbert, who
Sure.
looked like he was like a Mr. Do It All in
Yeah.
motorsports. It's just phenomenal, just the talent that comes from this area that people might not even heard of. So, what are your thoughts on the 2023 inductee class?
Well, it's neat, and we didn't plan it this way, but it turns out that we've got with this class with a couple of new sports, auto racing, one of them, and horse racing the other. We actually have 20 total different sports making up the roster. And you go through it, and it's a kind of thing where you hear Willie Jones and you hear the term Puddinhead. Turns out that came from there was a song at the time,
Mm-hmm.
Puddinhead Jones. But you look at his career. You know what? He's up there. Especially when he retired, he was at the top of a lot of lists for the Phillies. So people like that to your point, he's one of the whiz kids, but he's not Richie Ashburn, he's not Robin Roberts. People know those names or some of the other names, but he deserves to be in there. And for us, I think what's one of the neatest part about it for us is okay. People they Bernard Hopkins, obvious. Irving Fryer, obvious. Jeremiah Trotter, obvious. Chooch, obvious. But when you get into that next level, because we're all sports at all levels, you get into a guy like an Al Holbert. And I reached out to the family, and they were absolutely thrilled. They're absolutely thrilled. And I sometimes look and I said, looking at his resume, maybe he should have been in earlier. You kind of feel that way, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just the way the balloting goes because he was on the ballot for a couple of years and it didn't work. Or a guy like Bill Connect, the same thing. His family, they're just absolutely overwhelmed. And what's neat is that it's hard to believe, but we get as much support from those lesser known names coming to the induction as we do with the big names. Because of the family, they're so excited about it, and they promote it, and people want to come to it. So Carol Lewis, everybody says, you're inducting Carl Lewis. I have to know it's Carol, because
Right.
Carl, he was our second year. Carl went in year two,
Mm-hmm.
and Carol, maybe she should have been in sooner. But again, it's kind of neat. Turns out what's pretty cool. Carl's going to come for his sister. He
Oh,
could he
that's
couldn't
awesome.
make it. He couldn't make it when we inducted him, but he'll be there for this year. So that's neat. That some of the lesser known names really kind of makes us feel good. And when they reach out and they're so thrilled, I get a voicemail or I get a phone call from them, it really makes me feel good. It really does.
Awesome. So you mentioned the 20th sports with horse racing and motorsports. How important to you guys is it to have that wide range of sports other than the big four, especially in a city like Philly where everybody's so passionate about the big four pro teams?
Right, and that's a fair point. And literally, as I said, we spent about a year going through all of this, and we got a lot of help from some of the regional sports halls of fame. Um, Virginia, they were a big help. The Alabama State was a big help. Buffalo, and they kind of stressed that's important Because otherwise it almost becomes a popularity contest, which is the big four sports. Um, and because we're a historical organization, that it's incumbent upon us to do that research into those names. And you look at some of the names going back. Most people now probably never heard of Joe Verdure, but he was basically the Mark Spitz of the 1940s. I mean, he set 19 world records, 21 American records, something like that. And when we inducted him in our second year, there were 40 people there just to support him. So it's important. I mean, as I said, we're all sports, all levels. And as I said, not that I feel better, but it's neat that we're able to acknowledge these. I don't want to call them lesser known sports, but not major sports.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to acknowledge them, and people appreciate that. I'd love to have you come to the induction. You'll see the support that the kind of the lesser known names get when their names are called, or when they make their their acceptance speeches, because they really appreciate the fact that they're recognized.
No, and it takes me back to earlier this year. I interviewed Mary Beth Freeman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she was a big time field hockey player. So she was the head coach at Temple for a little bit. She was at Maryland,
Wow.
and then at Columbia as well. And she said the same thing. She was just like, we need to get it out there. Like, she's really big now. She runs a lot of camps and things like that. And she's like, just getting the recognition out there to let people know, like, hey, if you want to play a non-mainstream sport like field hockey, here's the steps you need to take. And I think celebrating those, I guess you'd call them non-mainstream, is a great way to just get awareness out there.
It really is. Last year, we actually inducted another new sport. Somebody submitted Nikki Frank from Temple, fencing. I mean, literally, fencing with the EP and all that. And I said, really? And I looked it up. It's like, well, again, maybe she should have been legend, absolute legend. Maybe we should have had her in earlier. But and then you hear her tell her story. That's one of the neatest things about it is, and luckily we video in the past couple of years. We've been video the inductions, so that's available for people. But you hear them tell their story, and it's neat, and they really appreciate the recognition, the fact that somebody went out of their way to dig into their past and to find that's a good term, non-mainstream sport. They really appreciate that, and I think it helps get those sports out there a little bit. I think it does. It wasn't our intention, obviously, from the beginning. We found out that it kind of there's always a little bit of a residual effect after the induction, after the inducted class is named, and after the induction as well.
No, absolutely. And I guess the last question then about inductees. Do you guys keep it strictly for like teams and actual players? I'm thinking, like, would the Fanatic ever get consideration for being in there, and I know this is kind of a touchy subject for a lot of people, but like a Rocky, just because of the I guess impact that the fictional boxer had on the city.
Right. So a couple of things. We have some couple categories. We have we call our legacy of excellence. And that's where we honor our sports writers, broadcasters, announcers, all that. And it's very interesting that in our first year, as we were putting the ballot together, people like Bill Conlon at the time, Stan Hockman, Ray Didinger, people in the media, they said, here's my opinion, whether you want it or not, we don't think we should be on the ballot with the athletes, with the performers. Mm-hmm. They actually went out of their way to say they feel that they should be separate. So what we do, we created this separate category of legacy of excellence. So within that, that's where we had Harry Callis. He was our first one. But Ray Didinger, Stan Hockman, you name it. Maybe a general manager or an owner may go in that category. We also have so the Fanatic would probably fit in there. We have a lifetime commitment, which is like our first one was Sonny Hill. Then we have Bob Levy. People that are involved in sports, kind of behind the scenes. They're not not well known, but they're really important in certain areas. If you're familiar with the Markwood Club, in basketball, mm-hmm. So they reached out and we researched that, and Billy Markwood from Rome, and who basically the award's named after. We inducted him. So it's neat to have these different categories. And then we also have, and there's only been two of them, the medal, the Philadelphia medal, and the first one was Ed Snyder, and we were. Does he fit in Legacy of Excellence? Because that year we inducted Harvey Pollack as well, and they both work for the same organization. Nothing against Harvey, but his, and then Ed Snyder with the founding of the. So we said, you know what, let's come up with something different. So we had the Philadelphia medal as a different category, and the only other ones that are in are the Sables. Ed and Steve Sable from NFL Films. That would have to be a higher quality. But we've also inducted, and we call it it would be an enshrinement, like we've enshrined the some events like the Penn Relays. We've enshrined them in a number of the local venues, the Palestra, Shy Park, places like that. So we kind of have it broken up a little bit as well. Again, to kind of, because again, we're a historical organization, and we'd like to kind of have that broad appeal.
No, great. And I mean, I think that's great because like some of those things, I know for me, like the vet, even though it was a dumpy place, that it was like our dump. And that's where I went to my first Phillies game, my first Eagles game. So that place will
Sure.
always hold a special spot for me. So I think those things are important to be enshrined as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and written into our bylaws is organizations or facilities that enhance the sports experience for fans. It's kind of how we have it written. And to your point, the vet would be that way. I mean, I had season tickets to the Eagles up in 709 until it closed. We had a couple of monumental games there. So yeah, the vet. That's up there. Spectrums could be on that list as far as a venue, that type
Right.
of thing. Sure.
Awesome. So this year's induction ceremony is November 2nd.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about how the ceremony itself works, venue, where it's at, kind
Sure.
of the way the evening will go.
Sure. So we're down at Live Casino. They have an event center down there. We went there last year, and it just worked out perfectly for us. There's a hotel there. We have some inductees from out of town. It works out well. We're able to put them up at the hotel. They're right there for the induction ceremony. So what we do, we've kind of, I guess it's been about 10 years now. We kind of got away from the classical, 1 hour of happy hour, and then a sit down, formal sit down dinner, and then the induction. That's why, if you notice, we actually refer to it as induction ceremony and reception. So really, what it is, it's an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minute. It's a gourmet reception with entree stations, and it's all open. So it's basically mingling the whole time, and it's really cool because all the inductees will be there. A lot of past inductees will be there. We can touch on that a little bit, with our 20th year, but it's a great experience for the attendees, because otherwise, if you have your formal sit down dinner and then for an hour, then you have a 2 hour ceremony, you're stuck with the 10 people you came with the whole night. Whereas this way, you've got an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of mingling with with the inductees, past inductees, people from the different sports teams. So it's very social, very social event. Then we sit down, and our induction, we've done a pretty good job. It's maybe an hour and 45 minutes. So it's not a real long induction. So basically, you get there, you show up, you get your, it's an open bar, great food, a lot of mingling going on. Then you'll sit down, and we, like your normal award ceremony. We go through a list, and we run through them. We have our MC Joe DeCamera from WIP. He's our MC. Yeah, and he'll go through it. We have a lot of video involved. So it's a great night. And as I said, it's a lot of networking early on and a lot of fun right after that.
Sounds right up my alley. So,
Good.
and the information then on attending is also on the website then?
It is, yeah. The link I sent you up. It's out to registration. As I said, it's open to the public. We have a lot of different levels of attendance available. We have a private meet and greet, which starts earlier than that. It's a higher end, but we want to keep it limited. We have the induction ceremony with the as I said, open bar and gourmet reception. And what we also do is we had some people reach out. I can't make it for the dinner, but can I come to the event anyway? At the time, we didn't have a way to do that, so we sell an induction ceremony only ticket. So if somebody wants to just come, not get to eat or drink, they just want to come to enjoy the event, we have a lower price ticket for that as well.
All right, awesome. So I will definitely make sure, guys, if you're out there listening and interested, that link will be down in the description. So you'll probably see me there. I'm just saying. So if you want to come say hi to me, go ahead. Um, but you mentioned the some of the special things and everything for the 20th year. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys have in store and plan for that?
Sure. So every year, what we do for all of our inductees going in, we have what we have a memorabilia display dedicated to those to that class. This year, we're going to hopefully try to expand that to try highlight some real of our key past inductees. What we've really done this year was we really made a concerted effort to go back and reach out to our past inductees and have them see if we can get them there. And right now, we're up to about 25 previous inductees who've committed to come. Yeah, it's really neat. Um,
Mhm.
we're still waiting to get their permission that we can use their names to kind of promote it.
Right.
But I mean, we're talking about going back to some of our first and second classes, and there'll be some really big names there. And as I said, they'll be part of that reception. They'll be there. Some of them they said, yeah, sure, I can make it. And you know what? We haven't been able to get in touch with so and so. You know what? Let me reach, one of our inductees will reach out to another inductee and say, hey, the Hall of Fame's trying to get in touch with you. So they're going through that. Yeah, so it's actually, we weren't sure what to expect because, it's 20 years, something, you know what? They don't really care about it. But a lot of people are really excited about it. So it's going to be a fun night. It really will. So as I said, our target is to have 45 or 50 for past inductees there. We're about halfway there.
That's great. I mean, and that I think that's a testament to a lot of like Bryce Harper says it all the time about how much he loves it here. But I think the guys that really thrive and are successful, they really do, and they want to come back. So I'm sure a lot of like Trotter's teammates are probably going to come back. Hopefully, some of
Sure.
Chooch's and things like that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it does. The appeal's there for that, and what's neat is some of them they never see each other, but it's kind of neat. Like say, hey, Bob Boone, or I haven't seen you since the last Hall of Fame event, but now people from the same inductee class will get to see each other again. So it's kind of a mini reunion for them as their own class. So what we're hoping to do is put together and get some class pictures of the individual class, and then hopefully get everybody together. You get a nice big picture of all past inductees, current inductees. So it should be kind of neat.
Oh, I love it. That sounds awesome. Um, Last thing before we get into some of the things that some of the ways people can help. Um, Talk just briefly because I'm going to focus on this every day on this day in Philly sports history for October. But you guys are doing a specific special 20 for 20 spotlight on your website.
Right. So it kind of came about just randomly. Like as we're going through our this year's inductee class, um, we knew it was our 20th year, and at the end we always count up and somebody said, you know what, we have 20 sports. So 20, we added two new sports, so it's actually
Mhm.
20 sports. And somebody said, hey, there's got to be something there. And we're going back and forth. And then we, kind of stole a little bit of ESPN's 30 for 30. So we said, let's do a 20 for 20. How can we do that? So what we came up with was, just some different categories. And it's not a list. It's not a rank of 1 to 20. It's just highlighting some of the big names in those different categories. Yeah, so it's on the website, but we have the first one we did was coaches, and it's neat. And again, it's all sports, all levels. So you'll see, college on there, pro. We dedicated one just to Philadelphia's Olympic legends. So it just kind of came out randomly. We said, you know what, it's kind of a neat thing, a different way to help promote the 20th anniversary. And we're doing releasing them, as I said, every 2 weeks. I think we just released football last week, so baseball will be coming out this week.
Great. Yeah, like I said, every day in October, well, every weekday in October, I'll do a spotlight on whichever 20 for 20 is. I'll probably start at the beginning and work my way through. So you guys stay tuned for that. More details coming. But Ken, so obviously you mentioned a couple times about this being a volunteer, and I wrote this down. I love the fact that you said this is more of an idea than a museum. And I think that's very powerful and very like poignant, like just to get you thinking. So how can people help you guys out, whether it's financially, with time, like what things can they do?
Sure. So we're always looking for donations. And I mean, our this Hall of Fame induction ceremony, it's our annual, really, it's our annual fundraiser. We don't bill it as that, but it really funds us for the entire year. So if people want to come to the, come to the induction, we have a great silent auction every year. What we're looking to do this year is hopefully get those auction items online earlier, so people can actually bid, ahead of time. Maybe they can't make it to the induction, but they can bid on something that they might like. So there's that part of it. Sponsorships, we're always, we can always look for sponsorships, whether it's at the preview gallery. But one of the biggest areas is literally just volunteering your time. There's people that are good at things. We're basically a small business. Okay. And you think of anything involved in a small business, you've got management, marketing, finance, bookkeeping, those types of things. But then you add the Hall of Fame layer on top of that, and it's kind of that administrative process of every year with researching nominees, doing historical research. Some people may love to do that. Maybe I can't go out and ask for donations, but I'm a good writer. I'm a good researcher. So people may be interested in history or sports history, event planning. I mean, it's a big event. I mean, it's like the first induction year we had. I think it might have been Stan Hockman pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Ken, you know what you just did? You signed up to run a wedding every year." Without thinking about it, I'm talking 400 people, and it's inviting people, and it's sometimes it's funny though, like when we invite families. Oh, I can't, I can't sit with this part of my family. We have to separate them. But
Jeez.
event
Just like a
planning,
wedding.
that type of thing, decor. Um, we have the preview gallery. We have our museum exhibits. Some people may be great at staging or pictures, design, all that type of thing. Carpentry, those types of things, and technologically, we have a website. Obviously, we keeping that website up to date. There's a number of different areas that we really, people may think, well, I can't help out. And they think, well, I did that for my whole life. I can help out. I can do that. And I believe I sent you a link, and there's kind of a list of everything right there that there are people that people might be able to help out with.
No, absolutely. And my brain's already working of ways that I can help contribute, and just a lot of the stuff that you're saying. I'm like, this is what I do on a weekly, daily basis. So,
Right, right.
all right. Anything else about this year's induction class or the Hall of Fame in general before we wrap up?
I don't think so. The good news is this year all of our living inductees are going to be in attendance. We normally, not normally, occasionally we'll have one or two that may not make it, and what we might do is record a video. But this year it's great news that we've got every one of our living inductees are going to be there. We've got family representatives for the Bill Connect. As I said, it's cool that Carl Lewis is coming back. So yeah, as I said, it's really going to be a great event. It is every year, but it's kind of a little bit special being the 20th. It's open to the public. It's available. Everybody can sign up, buy a table, buy an ad, buy a single ticket, whatever you want. We say it's the most exciting night in the sports calendar without being a game. So
I love it. All right. So before I let you go, I ask everybody who comes on, and this is just my own personal thing, but especially during Eagle season, Eagle or Cowboys or Giants, which team do you despise the most?
I have to say Cowboys, and I think just because they've probably had a little more success, but from the time they branded themselves as America's team, that was it. And believe me, I mean, those Giants are close, but yeah, it's definitely Cowboys, absolutely, no doubt.
That's why I always ask, and everybody says the same thing. They're like, it's just close, and I don't know if I can necessarily disagree with you there, but I think you can't go wrong either way.
Yeah, it's easy. Our family, we're in a pigskin pick'em pool. You pick a winner every week, and my family never picks the Cowboys.
No.
So even Cowboys Giants, it's like, oh great, so who do we pick? You end up going Giant, but
a tie.
Yeah, right. Pick a tie, right? It's funny, good call.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ken. Everyone, all the information you need as far as volunteering, tickets to the event is going to be in the description. But this is going to be an awesome event. I'm looking forward to being there myself. But make sure you do whatever you can. And if you're interested, the information about going up the spikes will be in there too. But again, thank you, Ken. And I wish you guys the best of luck this year.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. I'm really glad to be on.
Thank you.
You bet.
We can't have an episode about the place where the GOATs of Philly sports live without mentioning the GOAT of Philly sports apparel. Want to show support for your Philly teams? Check out PhillyGoat.com. They have all your needs covered, whether it's Sixers, Flyers, Eagles, Phillies, Union, Philly boxing, Philly culture, Philly pride. There's something for you. They have tees, hoodies, hats, any color, any size you want, including kids. Go to PhillyGoat.com and use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. That's PhillyGoat.com. Be sure your shirt has the authentic goat on the sleeve and use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's PhillyGoat.com. Wow, that was amazing. I had so much fun sitting down with Ken. I hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned something. But as he mentioned, if you are interested in learning more about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, go to their main site, which is phillyhall.org. That'll give you information about the location at Spikes, as well as how you can contribute and volunteer. If you want more on the 2023 induction, including information about tickets, go to philadelphiasportshalloffame.org. I definitely will be buying a ticket and being in attendance. It sounds like it's going to be so much fun. And if it wasn't for being the 20th year, just the idea of being able to celebrate Philly sports like that, and the fact that Philly has such a rich and deep sports history. And you heard what he said, the fact that there's so many people in now, and they have a list of hundreds of people. And I'm very excited, to be honest. And when we did the interview with Mary Beth Freeman, of just trying to get some of those off the beaten path, non-mainstream sports, getting them the recognition, because some of these people, whether it's women, men, they're just so good at what they do, and they deserve to be celebrated. They deserve to be recognized. So anything we can do to help. Obviously, I know, and as you guys know, most of you will probably listen to this day in Philly sports history too. There's so many things that I'm able to uncover just in my research that I'm sure would tie right along in with some of the exhibits and everything. So I'm excited to give back and be a part of this organization. And again, go to either phillyhall.org or philadelphiasportshalloffame.org for information on this year's induction, and as well as how you can give back, how you can become involved. And like I said, I love the fact that Ken said that the Hall of Fame is an idea more so than a museum. And I love that, because in Philly, we're very big, especially when it comes to our big four sports, on just the passion and everything like that. And you don't need a huge building to feel the love and sharing the memories. Like I said, I have the piece of the Vet over there, one of the dumpiest stadiums ever, yet it holds so many special memories from the first football game I've been to, my first time ever there at a baseball game with my dad, and just being in all of those ugly yellow and brown and orange seats. And again, it was just a dump, but it's not the physical building. It's the emotions and the memories that they conjure up. And that's why, like, that really hit home to me when he said that the Hall of Fame is an idea. And I really love that. I jotted it down, and I felt that, because it brings back memories of summertime, watching games with my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts, uncles, mom, dad, all of that. So be sure to go check out those sites, phillyhall.org, philadelphiasportshalloffame.org, to see how you can help be a part of this year's induction ceremony. I know I will be. I'm super, super pumped, and I just want to thank Ken again for taking the time to hang out and chat. I had a lot of fun. I feel like I was just kind of listening to him and just hanging on his every word, because I just loved everything he said, and I love everything the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame stands for. But be sure to like and subscribe Back to the Future, so that way anything new we have coming will get delivered right to your inbox, or at least you'll receive a notification. Same thing with This Day in Philly Sports History. In October, be sure to like and subscribe, so that way you'll know. We are going to focus on this year's inductees, as well as dive deeper into the 20 for 20 that Ken was talking about, in honor of the 20th induction class, as well as the 20 different sports, which to me, You have your core four here. The fact that there are 16 other sports in this area, that we have people that are fitting and able to call themselves the best at what they do and Hall of Famers, is just a remarkable thing and a testament to not only what the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame represents and means, but just this area in general, because obviously they come from good coaching, good family background, things like that. So you have to love that. Like I said, for September, we're going through and we're doing who wore it best, having a little bit of fun with numbers. So it's not too late to join in on that. Every day we just pick 2 to 4 guys that wore a specific number, and you guys vote on who was the best one to do it. Be sure to check me out on social media: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter at Jimbo_Mont, Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Again, thanks to Ken Avallon. Be sure to follow and like the Twitter and all the other social media accounts for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Spread the word about them. Like I said, they're a grassroots movement and basically nonprofit. These guys are doing this for the love of the sport. So however you can give back, spread the word. Let your friends know. Let your family know. And then let's just spread the word and make this 20th anniversary induction class one of the best. And then let's grow it from here. Again, have yourselves a week. Hopefully our Eagles come out better tomorrow night. I'm taping this on Wednesday, obviously, but hopefully they come out better against Minnesota, and this is not a stale, bad take. Hopefully the Phillies continue to hold on to that top wild card spot. Have yourselves a week, guys. I'll be back next week. This is Jim Montgomery. You're listening to Back to the Future, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.